Hi, and welcome to the latest of my webinars in the Blogging Mums Club Clubhouse. Today's webinar is all about building your blog's domain authority. Now, last week when I did my webinar, I tried to record it on my phone and then I uploaded it to YouTube, and the whole process took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. So today I've come back down to my computer's webcam, and I'm actually uploading this live onto YouTube. So hopefully that will stop me from having to do the uploading process at the end. What it means is that I am going to try and keep going with this live, even if I make mistakes, even if things happen, I'm going to try and keep going so that I can get this done and ready and off to send to you as soon as it's finished. So, okay, domain authority. What exactly are people going on about when they talk about having a domain authority and getting it bigger? If you've just started blogging, you're probably really bamboozled by all this, because it's something, as soon as you get onto blogging sites, you can see people talking about their domain authority, and you may think, well, what the heck is this all about? So let me just start by saying, well, what exactly is domain authority? In the first place, domain authority is only relevant to you if you have a self-hosted blog on a website. If you're blogging on Facebook, if you're blogging on Instagram, if you're blogging on YouTube, if you've got a free site with Blogger, or if you've got WordPress.com, the free WordPress sites, then you do not have your own domain authority. This may be a good thing, this may be a bad thing. There's a lot of good reasons for blogging on free sites. The domain authority is going to stop you from doing some of the things. The lack of domain authority is going to stop you from doing some of the things that I'm going to mention below. But at the end of the day, as you'll see by the end of this talk, domain authority is not the be-all and end-all of everything. So you may decide, once you're established and you want to actually make something of your blog, that you want to go self-hosted and start building your domain authority. Or maybe you'll decide that you don't need to at all. That's completely up to you. So domain authority is a measure that is trying to get to the idea of basically how good is your blog. And by good, I mean, are you talking about subjects that people are interested in and wanting to read about? And are you an expert in those subjects? Now, of course, when you start blogging, you're probably not an expert in anything, but hopefully you've got some sort of niche subject, something that you think you know a bit more about than the average person in the street, something that you really want to tell the world about. And you want to get out there and tell your story on that particular subject such that people are going to be interested in reading it. Now, if that's not your intention with your blog, if you're actually just there to put a diary together for you, or if you're just doing it for a hobby, then you probably don't need domain authority at all. But if you've got something, if you're trying to blog for business, if you're trying to get a specific message out to people, and if you're actually wanting to build a blog that people are going to read, if you're perhaps looking to monetize the blog in the future, then maybe you do need to think about domain authority. Maybe not specifically building it, but you probably need to know what your domain authority is. And more specifically, you need to know who else is talking about the same sort of subject as you and what is their domain authority as well, so that you can see whether or not you stand a chance of being able to talk about your subject and having people listen to you. So, domain authority specifically is a measure that's been put together by a site called Moz. That's moz.com. Now, Moz is a search engine optimization company. And if you go onto their website, the first thing you'll see is that they're trying to sell you their search engine optimization services. And that's great. If you're a big company and you want to get your site ranked on Google, then you are going to need to look at search engine optimization. And certainly once you get your blog a little bit bigger, if you decide that you want to grow and you really want to make a business out of it, then you're going to have to look at search engine optimization. But I would say that the paid products that Moz offers are not exactly what you want. However, they are a big SEO agency and they have put together this domain authority. And for one reason or another, the internet seems to have adopted it as one standard of how good and authoritative your site is. And so we're kind of stuck with that as a measure. And so you might as well have a look at it for a start, and possibly have a look at the free stuff that's offered on the Moz site, because at the end of the day, they wrote the book on domain authority. They've devised it. If they've got some ideas as to how you can make it better, then that is a really good place to start. But okay, to start off with, domain authority is a very crude measure of how good your blog is, how authoritative it is, and whether or not people should listen to you. The one reason why you might want to care about domain authority is it's the one thing that people can publicly see about your blog. Nobody can see how many viewers you've got. I mean, they can go on your social media channels and you can see how many followers you've got, but nobody can see how many people are actually reading the pages on your blog. Nobody can see how many people clicks on the site every day and all of that sort of stuff. PR companies might ask you to share that information, but they don't have a means of absolutely checking that. So domain authority, in its crudest sense, is one way. It's a metric that is publicly available for any blog that's out there. And it's one way in which somebody could look at your blog and know whether you actually have got some idea what you're talking about, or whether you are a complete and total newbie. And maybe they might use that as an indicator of whether they want to work with you or not. So first of all, how can you check your domain authority? Because I mean, that's the first thing you kind of want to know. If you're going to try and build your domain authority, you kind of need to know where you're starting from. So you can either just Google domain authority checker, and you'll get various different sites that just ask you to put in the URL of your blog, and you type it in, and then they will give you domain authority on that. And it will be a number between 0 and 100. Now, I can promise you that it won't be 100, because there are only about 6 sites in total in the entire internet that have got up to a total 100 domain authority. That's Facebook, Google, Pinterest, Twitter, those sort of companies have 100 domain authority. At the end of the day, we know they're good sites. Everybody's on them all the time. Everybody's talking about them. You may think that they give you a pile of rubbish, but at the end of the day, there's millions of people who disagree with you. But if you're not going to get 100 domain authority, though, what are you going to get? If you find you've got a domain authority of 0 to 10, it probably indicates you're very new to blogging and you haven't been going very long, and you probably haven't done anything about it. And it's a place to start. If it's 0, then it probably means that Google hasn't found you yet at all. If your domain authority is 10 to 20, well, that means that you've sort of made a start and things are sort of starting to happen for you. When it gets to 20 to 30, that's a reasonably established small to medium-sized blog. If it's 30 to 40, that's pretty good. Medium-sized, well-established, people are really starting to find you. Once you get above 40, then that is proper blogging, established blogging territory. At that point, you're going to start to get a little bit more notice from external people that might be interested in working for you. And if you manage to get your DA above 50, well, that's completely amazing. And quite frankly, if you have, you don't need to be watching this talk, because I am not going to be helping you with the more advanced version of this. This talk is going to be specifically aimed at the starter bloggers who haven't really heard very much about domain authority at the moment and really want to know how to get started getting it from the sort of 0 up to 20, 30 type area. So, next question. Is domain authority something that you really should be focusing on? Is this the be all and end all of blogging? Is this what you really, really, really need? What is it actually for? Well, I've told you what it's for. It's a rough grade. It's an algorithm made by an external company that's going to tell people how good or bad your blog is to a certain extent. But one thing I will say, domain authority is not used by Google. It's similar to what's used by Google, certainly, but it's not specifically used by Google. It will not guarantee you viewers. If you've got a bigger domain authority than somebody, that does not mean you've got more page views than them. It is possible to have a reasonably high domain authority, but not very many viewers at all. Certainly, if you use a blog for a long time, like for instance, I did for a long time, I've had my blog for 10 years now. But in 2015, I had a family emergency and I stopped blogging for about 6 months. I posted nothing on the blog. There was completely nothing there. And yet I still kept a substantial amount of my domain authority. Was my blogging any good at that point? No, there was nothing on the blog to see at all. Was I getting any page views? Hardly any at all. Nobody was coming because I wasn't posting any new stuff. But I still had domain authority because the blog was already 6 years old and therefore outranked somebody that had just started. And the minute I started posting blog posts, they probably got more views than a newbie would, just because Google recognizes that I've been in business for quite some time. And so I've got some authority just because I've been around the block a while. Have I got more page views than you? Possibly not. Who knows? So, will domain authority get you blogging work? Well, there are certain types of blogging work which the companies that offer that work will look at domain authority. Now, specifically, the agencies that are looking for to build backlinks and offer you sponsored posts where you link to an external company, they will look at your domain authority and decide whether or not they want a link from your site, and they will pay you for that link. There's a company particularly called Bloggers Required, and if you look on their site, they actually specify if you've got a page authority of 0 to 10, you can get certain types of work. If you've got 10 to 20, you can get certain types of work, and the different categories of domain authority, you get paid more for the work that you do. What those sites are offering is work where you are going to be paid for links that you give from your site to other people. We're going to be talking about building backlinks in a minute for your own site, for increasing your domain authority. What you're basically doing is, if you've got a certain amount of domain authority, by doing these sponsored posts, you're giving your domain authority to other sites, and they are building backlinks and whatever. Now, Google is not very happy with people buying backlinks. So when you do this type of SEO work, yes, you're paid for it, but you're also doing something that Google doesn't like. And the actual doing of that work is going to negatively impact your blog's authority. So it's a kind of difficult situation. If you've decided to monetize your blog, then okay, doing this sort of sponsored work that the high domain authority will give you is great because it brings in money. But generally, you end up writing stuff that is not what your blog is about, and you're giving out links which Google doesn't like. You can get a nasty penalty for it, and who knows? It's up to you. How much do you want money? How much do you want a bigger blog? Doing this may end up hurting your overall stats. So, okay, maybe you don't want domain authority. Maybe you don't want to do sponsored posts. Maybe you're going to push on through and get to the point where brands are asking you to promote their stuff just because they want you to write about the brand, and they don't really care about the links, and they're not paying you for a link. They're actually wanting you to be an influencer and talk about brands. Those type of companies are probably not going to look at your domain authority. What they're going to want to see is they'll ask you for your viewer numbers, they'll ask you for your social shares, they will look at your Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest accounts and Twitter and actually see that when you share stuff, you've got people talking about it. That is kind of a part of domain authority, but at the end of the day, you can build all of that sort of stuff and your domain authority may not even move at all. But if you build a vibrant social community around what you're doing, then that is another way to grow your blog, which has nothing to do with domain authority at all, and may in the long run actually be the best way forward nowadays. So, okay. So maybe you want to build your domain authority, maybe you don't want to build your domain authority. Maybe you've decided after hearing this that actually domain authority is something you don't care about at all. The one thing I will say is that the stuff that you can do that builds your domain authority is also in many ways the same stuff that you do that will make Google like you better. So in that respect, some of the things that I will say are good for you to do whether or not you care about the domain authority number. So here are a few things that you can do to build your domain authority. Now, I've basically gone on the internet to look for a lot of these. If you Google the whole building your domain authority thing, you will get quite a lot of articles. I recommend that you look at the date the article was written, because at the end of the day, this whole area moves every minute. It moves. Google changes what they're looking for. The Moz algorithm to calculate domain authority changes every so often. So if you look at an article to raise domain authority and it was written 3, 4, 5 years ago, then it's probably got outdated information in it. So I just wanted to make sure that I was getting the latest stuff, and these are some of what I think are the most important things that you can do. First of all, of course, I've mentioned it already, stay in business for a long time. One of the definite features that goes into the domain authority algorithm is how long have you been a blogger? How long have you been in business? Have you got a lot of posts on your site? What is the basic sort of size and stature of your site? Now, of course, as a newbie, you cannot influence that. You've really just got to sit it out and wait, and it will naturally build over time. That's really frustrating for me to say that to you. But at the end of the day, just kind of figure that by posting regularly all the time, your domain authority is naturally going to rise ever so slightly just because you're out there. The next thing that will really help with your domain authority is to have a clear idea of what your blog is about, to have a niche, a subject, a general subject area, and to publish good and relevant and interesting blogs relating to your subject area. Really and truly, this domain authority should be about, well, you know, are you talking about something that people want to read about? Are you talking about it in a way that is interesting? Are you talking about it in an authoritative fashion? For instance, if you're talking about, let's say, the menopause, are you talking about the menopause? If you're writing blogs about the menopause, have they got lots of facts in them? Are they interesting? Are you helping people? Are you answering their questions? If I was going through problems with my menopause and I Googled, what do I do about a headache when I'm in my menopause? Would your blog give me the right answer? This is what Google wants. It wants to know that when people type in questions, they're going to get at the top of their feed something that actually answers the question that they've written. And the really best thing that you can do to build your domain authority and your authority in general is to pick the subject that you're writing about and to write some really good stuff, such that people are going to want to search for it and that it is relevant. So that's one thing, and that's really the most important thing, is making sure that you've got good stuff on your site. Next thing you need to do is get your social media sorted out. So make sure that you've got that when you do write something on your website, that you share it out there on social media and get it out there, and that people are liking and commenting on social media. That doesn't necessarily build your domain authority directly, but what it does do is get more of a community of people that then might be tempted to come to your website the next time you publish something, and start building people that are coming to your website. And you need to kind of get out there in the blogging community too, and start reading other people's blogs and start interacting with them. Because the next thing, and the most important thing on domain authority, is building links to your site. What you want is, when you publish a blog post, is that somebody else on their blog is going to link to you by saying, well, by including a link to your thing that you wrote in the thing that they're writing, because they think that yours is important and relevant for their readers to know about. So how does this work? There are various different ways that you can do this, building links. The first one, as I've mentioned earlier, is you can buy links from an SEO agency. Please don't do that. It's not going to get you very much. It costs a huge amount of money to buy a link from a DA30 site. And yet, at the end of the day, if you're out there on the blogosphere and if you are communicating with other bloggers, you can get them very easily without paying for them. And you can give your links freely without paying for them by joining in a discussion about the subject that you're writing about. Sometimes when you comment on other people's blog posts, some of the commenting boxes underneath will automatically give you a link back to your website. Not all of them do. Sometimes they ask you to put your website in and you don't get a follow link back to your website. But at the end of the day, some of them do still give a follow link back to your website. So just going into a different blog on the same subject as you, commenting on the blog and leaving a link to your website, that can help to build links. You can do, you can join in with linky posts and collaborative posts. There are quite a few places on Facebook where people are asking for collaborators. Like, for instance, somebody might be writing a blog post at the moment. What are the best toys to give a 10-year-old for Christmas? And maybe they want to write a blog post and they're going to reference 10 or 12 different other bloggers who've written a post about toys for 10-year-olds for Christmas. The collaborative post, it's an easy one for a blogger to write. You ask for several collaborations, people send in their links, and then you just write a post that just references all of those. And it's an interesting post for people to read, and it also gives out links to every single person that has collaborated. So by joining in with collaborative posts, and then by maybe doing some collaborative posts of your own, you can kind of interlink with a whole lot of other bloggers, and that starts to build links into your site. Once you've done a few of those and your blog is starting to build and you're starting to get a bit of a presence, then you can start maybe asking people if you can guest post on their site. That's when you write a whole blog post which gets published on somebody else's blog. That only gets you maybe one link from their blog back to the site for a whole blog post. But at the end of the day, if you have got a specific message that is out there, it gets your message out to a whole new set of readers. And maybe after they've read your post on the site that you guest posted on, maybe they will sign up and start reading your stuff in future. And that's a really good thing too. And the other great way to build links to your website is, one of the really good things that you want to try and do is get authority links. Now, that is to get somebody that's got a really big site to link back to your website. Now, the best ones of those, if you can manage to do it, are the national press. If you can get yourself featured in a big newspaper or a big magazine, even your local newspapers and magazines, if they're well read and if they're well regarded, if you can get on their online editions and get the online edition of the newspaper or whatever to link back to your website, then you've cracked it. That's a huge link usually. My website went completely mad when I was featured in the Mail on Sunday and the Sunday Express. This was a few years ago now. And for a couple of years, my website after that went just completely bananas, just because those two publications had published a link to my site and everybody came looking for it. It was amazing. And that's still relevant today. If you can get really big sites to link back to you, those individual links will be worth more than 10 links from small sites that are the same size as you. So if you've got a product and a service that's out there, it's maybe worthwhile getting some PR and getting an agency to try and get you in some press. And then hopefully those press media will give you some decent links back to your site. And those are the best links of all, as I said. So those are the sort of outreach ideas for building domain authority. So that's writing decent content, guest posting, commenting on other people's posts, collaborating with linkies, collaborative posts, and all of the rest of it. Getting featured in the press, and also getting really good social content and getting out there on social media all over the place, just basically building a community around your post and the stuff that you're doing. That's the best bit about building domain authority. Then after that, once you've got as far as you can with that, then there's the fiddly stuff, the tedious SEO stuff on your site, which is kind of tidying up your site so that Google can access it easier and so that it's pretty and nice and it loads quickly and all of the rest of it, which is more about, it's sort of SEO for the computers. The first lot that I was talking about is SEO for real people, making sure that you've got more real people talking about you and knowing about what you do. This second sort of section is more about making the site good for Google and good for the Moz crawlers when they come calling as well, so that they kind of think that yours is a nice, tidy, happy site. So what kind of things do I mean for that? First of all, you need to keep your site nice and clean and tidy. Make sure there are no broken links. Make sure there are no sort of, when posts get deleted, that there's a little box that takes you off somewhere else and you don't just get a dead end. You need to make sure that if you write a blog that links out to somebody else's site, if that company goes out of business and that website gets shut down, you need to make sure that you remove those links regularly and that you're not sort of got a whole load of loose ends that don't lead anywhere. Next thing you need to do is think about on your page SEO. Have you got keywords? Have you got title tags? Have you got image tags? All of the rest of this sort of stuff. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about here, it's probably, this is kind of more advanced sort of stuff. And if you need any help on this, then please do sort of drop me a line after the talk is finished, and I will see if I can give you a hand. So you need to think about keywords for each page. If you're on WordPress, I would absolutely recommend the Yoast SEO plugin for this. This will really help you to get each page kind of buzzing and optimize the best that you can for SEO. And then think about, make sure your site is mobile friendly. Have a look at your website on a mobile and make sure that you can read it and that everything is set up nicely and it doesn't look stupid on a mobile. Because at the end of the day, the vast majority of us look at blog content on mobile phones now. And if your site is not mobile friendly, then Google does not like you. That is an absolute for sure. If you find that your site is not mobile friendly, you're probably going to need to get a web developer to help you change your theme or sort something out so that your site does look better on a mobile phone. Next thing to think about is the loading speed of your site. Make sure that your images are not too big, that there aren't too many of them. Make sure they've been sort of squished up so that they are taking up the right amount of space. And then also make sure that you've got quite a lot of internal links within your site so that your blog posts all kind of link within each other. And when somebody's read a post of yours, there's somewhere for them to go afterwards, and that your blog sort of makes sense overall as a unit. So those are my basic set of tips. This has been a little bit random, I know, but I'm going to write this up as a blog post. It will probably be up in the next day or so. And once it's up, I will put a link to it on YouTube and also in the Hey Summit page if you've come through this through Hey Summit. So where would be your next steps after this? Well, the first thing I would recommend, even if you're a complete beginner at domain authority, is that you go to the moz.com website, scroll right down to the bottom, and you will see a free SEO toolbar. Now, if you click on that and apply to get the Moz toolbar, what you'll get is a little bar that appears at the top of your website. And then once it's on, anything that you click on, you'll be able to see its domain authority. So you can start by looking at your own website and seeing your own domain authority. And then you can also maybe have a look at some of the other blogs that you read regularly and start to see their domain authority too. Now, if you've got a subject that you're writing about, like, I was saying, like, for instance, menopause, if you Google the word menopause and then have a look at the top 5 or 6 subjects, top 5 or 6 blogs that are coming up, you can have a look at their domain authority. How does that compare to yours? If the top 5 or 6 people in the subject you want to write about have domain authority that is 20 or 30 higher than yours, you're going to have real difficulty ranking in that area. So that's one way that you can use domain authority easily, is by just looking at yours versus your competitors. And it also just gives you an idea, and you can keep checking in on it just to see how things are going as you carry on with doing the stuff that you do, and you'll be able to see the domain authority build. While you're on the Moz site, they also have a very good SEO information page, and they also have a blog. And I would definitely recommend that, at the end of the day, as they have written the domain authority book, that it's worthwhile reading some of the stuff on the Moz blog. And then after that, I would just Google SEO in general, and also particularly domain authority if you decide that that's the way you want to go. I'm sort of on the fence about domain authority. I know what mine is. It's not great. I'm actually concentrating more on my social media at the moment and getting my name out there and getting my face shown. Hopefully when I do that, my domain authority will rise, but I must admit it's not actually my first priority. I just want to get a good blog that people are reading. And if my domain authority then rises, well, that's great. So that's pretty much all I've got to say on the subject at the moment. I hope you've enjoyed the talk. If you are watching this on Hey Summit in the Blogging Mums Clubhouse, then I will let you know that next week, the free webinar next Wednesday on the 20th of November is content creation and writing skills. And we've got a guest speaker next week. Her name is Samantha Flores, and she's going to come and talk to us about writing. Now, this fits in very nicely with the domain authority topic, because at the end of the day, as I said, the most important thing you can do is to get some good quality content on your site. So hopefully this will help and you'll be able to write some good stuff and get a really good start with your domain authority. Then the following week is the 27th of November. And at the moment, I've got this scheduled for an online networking event. Now, you may have seen me advertise this within the Blogging Mums Club. And if you haven't seen it, then please do have a look in the Blogging Mums Club Facebook group and look out for the event of online networking. What it basically is I've been asked to trial a new piece of software, and it will be basically like having a real networking group in that we can all come together and then we can, within the software, split off into small groups and chat with each other. So I can give a talk and then we can actually get together in groups of maybe 3 or 4 people and actually have a proper face-to-face networking session. And you'll hopefully go away really sort of invigorated from this. So I hope to see some of you at the online networking event. If you are within Hey Summit, can you please click on it? I'm afraid there is going to be a small charge for this event because I've got to pay for the software that makes it all happen. And I've got to pay even though it's just a trial. So, and also, I'm only going to run the event if I get 20 people that say they want to come to it, because at the end of the day, if we are going to do online networking and you've got to pay for it, I want to make it worth your while. So you are actually going to meet some people and you're going to have some people to chat with when you get there. So if you are interested in the online networking event, it is taking place on the 27th of November. It will be at 10 o'clock until 12 o'clock in the morning GMT. So if you're not in the UK, you'll have to figure out what that means in your time zone. I hope that you'll be able to join us. If the first event goes well and people like it, then I will be purchasing the software. And at that point, I will do some in different time zones so that people that for whom 10 till 12 GMT doesn't suit, I will do some in your time zone too. And we'll figure it out. We'll try some different times and we'll see what works best for the group. So that's it for the moment. I hope that you've enjoyed this talk on SEO and raising your domain authority. I hope that you've got some good points from it. I'm sorry that I've rambled a bit. I need to practice my video technique and need to prepare a little bit better, but I hope it's given you some ideas and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.